Lloyd Chapman here, the American Small Business League, another episode of Memory Lane. So I'm doing all these videos about all the strange things the government has done to try to suppress me and keep me off of television, on the newspapers, and keep me from exposing all the fraud and abuse that I've uncovered. And I wonder if people think, is it too outrageous to think that the Pentagon would want to silence someone that had won dozens and dozens of lawsuits against them exposing hundreds of billions of fraud and abuse? Of course they do. Of course they do. My lawyer in Washington tells me that it's a billion-dollar industry in Washington suppressing activists like myself. Another one, one of my lawyers, Carl Olson, told me that it's a huge business in New York, suppressing activists. It's called reputation management and crisis communication. Google that. What do you think they do? What do you think a international PR firm like Abco Worldwide does? They call it reputation management. What do you think they do? When Harvey Weinstein was accused of raping all those women, he hired, some company to try to suppress the stories and make it look like that all the women he raped were, loose women, right? So yeah, it's common. So here's a story. In 2002, the Tom Brokaw show, the Fleecing of America, sent a crew to my office in California from New York. About 4 guys showed up, and they had a lot of equipment. And the journalist was, I want to say his name was Frank Francis. They spent a week in my office interviewing me. And they also interviewed a couple of other, at that time, members of the American Small Business League in California. But they interviewed me a lot. And I remember they took one of our rooms and took a bookcase and filled it full of books. And Frank Francis had on a Hawaiian shirt. And I'm sitting there under these hot lights in a suit with a tie. And they're interviewing me, right, about all this kind of stuff. And that was just when I'd uncovered that there were thousands of large businesses in the SBA's database of small business. It was after the congressional hearing and the GAO investigation. The GAO found, I think, 5,327 large businesses in the SBA's database of small businesses called ProNet, right? And the Associated Press wrote a story around all across the country. And so Tom Brokaw, Fleecing of America, is going to do a story about Lloyd Chapman and uncovering all this fraud. So, they're there for several days, filming this story. And they left, and it was supposed to run, a few days later. And I remember I had the business card of the producer, and I won't mention, well, I guess you can probably figure out what TV station it was, what network it was. But, and I called, and they said, oh, it was supposed to run, Tuesday, we're going to run it next week. And they kept stalling. Finally, I wouldn't return my phone calls anymore. Long story short, it never ran. It never ran. So they spent a week in my office talking to me and interviewing me. Interviewed a couple other American Small Business League members, one in Southern California, and the other guy, I think, was out somewhere in Sacramento, whatever. But the story never ran. And again, I've been through that countless times, countless times. I'm Lloyd Chapman. Thanks.